evening, everyone. Welcome again to Wisdom Wednesday Live Talk Show. I know you have been having as much fun as I have been having. This evening is going to be a wonderful evening. So, Wagwan, Hola, welcome, hello, whatever it is for you. I'm happy to have you. And if you have not yet, hit that subscribe button. Please go right ahead and do so because you don't want to miss out on all the fun that is happening right here. This evening, I have a wonderful set of people to talk with you on a very, uh, it's not emotional, it's profound, it's one that sometimes is not talked about as often because when I reflect and understand and my understanding of persons who have special needs, most of the times they are left behind. Uh, People or parents think that parents did something wrong, it's a curse, and they just need to leave them home. They have no use to society and all of that. But this evening, I have a set of educators, and I have a parent with me who's going to shed some light on any darkness that you have. And that leads me right now to this quote, which says, parents of children with special needs create their own world of happiness and believe in the things that cannot yet see. Isn't that profound? I believe so. I'm going to take the time right now to introduce my panel to you. I have with me Charnel Lewis. She is a special educator for 6 years and she majored in deaf and hard of hearing for about 6 years in that field. She loves to work with these children. And she says that she believes that every child can learn just at their own pace. And she believes that one day she's going to have her own institution right in the land of her birth, Jamaica. Help me welcome Charnel Lewis.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you today?
I am great. I'm awesome. It's an awesome occasion to unwind after such a long and hectic day. So I'm looking forward to sharing and also shedding some light on what we do in this special field.
Awesome,
Thanks for
lovely,
having me.
lovely. All right, and next we have Nardia Smith Thomas. She's a mother of two beautiful girls, and she's hardworking and a self-motivated individual that don't need others' opinion to define her. She's also a patient care technician. Welcome, welcome, Nardia. Your mic is
Hello, thanks for having me. A mother of two. I also did early childhood in Jamaica, and I have worked with Family and Parenting Center when I had the privilege of working with children with autism, Down syndrome, and disability as children, teenagers from rural areas in Jamaica. So we have taught them how to learn the difference between self-discipline, self-concept, how to apply his or herself, and so on and so forth. Also, how to learn structures and boundaries in order to go back into school in order to do their 60s because they were sent to the Family and Parenting Center. So I have worked with them, and I also came to America and have taught special early childhood at the preschool as well.
thank you so much. And at this time we have Stefan Bill, a German citizen still for now, moved back and forth between Germany and US when I was younger until my parents decided just to drop me off here. Went to college upstate New York for sociology, where I met my wife, Elizabeth. I have two wonderful children and two dogs and two hamsters. I am big. I'm a big suckerhead. He completed his master's in special education at Fayette State University in NC. He has 15 years of experience in special education and in the resource and also separate setting, in the classroom setting rather. And he has experience in the charter school and he's now in Elizabeth City and has started a new position at the district as EC coach. Help me welcome Stefan Dale.
Hello, thank you for having me on this. Um, uh, I wanted to say that Ms. Lewis, when you talked about deaf and hard of hearing, that's one of my first separate setting classrooms that I had some kids with deaf and hard of hearing. So thank you for all you do. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you for being here. And at this time, we have Mrs. Donna Graham. She has been a special educator for 44 years. She is a mother of three, and she's now a principal at Learn Smart Academy. Help me welcome, she has a certificate in counseling and also supervisory management. The school I was in Jamaica, she was my vice principal. Help me welcome Mrs. Donna Graham.
Thank you very much. Um, Special education is something that is very near and dear to me. As you have heard, I have been teaching students with special needs for 44 years right out of high school. So it is something that's very close to my heart. Thanks for this opportunity.
Thank you. And audience, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are ready. We are ready to get into this. And at this time, we're going to have Mr. Bill. He's going to share with us a brief overview on special education, special needs rather, and exceptional children. Is there a difference between the two? And also, he's going to look at some of the most common disabilities and what are some of the misconceptions that is out there.
Okay, so special needs versus exceptional children. Right now, technically, there's not much of a difference. There used to be a difference because at some point, the academically intelligently gifted were considered under the umbrella of special needs, which is not necessarily the case anymore. But so at some point, you could have been diagnosed with certain SLD, which is a specific learning disability, as well as being academically gifted, because if you have experience with special needs, a lot of times, for example, ADHD is not necessarily a category, but that might actually, put you in a category of a specific learning disability. But that does not mean that you are unintelligent or don't understand stuff. It means your brain functions on a different level. And that could also mean that you could possibly do multiple things at once, or you are excelling in certain other areas, which qualifies you for academically gifted as well. So there's not really a difference there. Misconceptions, a lot of the misconceptions nowadays are that if a child goes to the doctor with the parents and the doctor diagnoses them as ADHD, for example, a lot of times parents think immediately like, oh, well, my kid's going to qualify for something at school. That's not necessarily the case, because you can have ADHD or any kind of disability, really, even autism, anything, but still not qualify for services at school. It has to impact your educational path. So in other words, if you are diagnosed by a doctor, by a licensed doctor, that you have autism, but you're getting like straight A's and B's in school and your social skills are just good enough to not impact your education, you're not going to qualify. And that's a misconception, because sometimes parents think that, hey, my kid needs to get this because they were diagnosed. That doesn't mean that. what we do in our school system is we try to level the playing field. So we want to make sure that your kid has access to the education like any other kids, because first things first, your child is always a general education student first before a special needs student. And if you can access the education, you're good to go. You don't need the services.
Okay. When I hear you speak about that, I would want to have Miss Donna share on that, because in Jamaica it's quite different. I don't think we really get. I let her, the expert, tell us how it is in our Jamaican system in terms of that misconception that if your child is diagnosed, you're gonna get special treatment or gonna get special access in the school system. Over to you, Miss Donna.
Well, really, there are no special considerations except when it comes to academics, because what we do, although we are striving to have inclusion, which is having students with special needs in class with regular students, but what we do is there are facilities that are available for students with exceptionalities, and it depends on the type of exceptionalities. So if you have students with severe or profound intellectual disabilities, then there is an institution, or there are institutions, there are facilities to accommodate those students. Um, if it is that the child has mild intellectual disabilities, then most times those children are in class with other students, or there are facilities that will accommodate those students. What we are trying to do now is to have students with the exceptionalities go through the general ed system, do all the national exams. However, what is available is someone who we call a shadow, who will work along with your child in the regular school, in the regular class, in general ed. So that child may be assigned a shadow who will assist your child along with the class teacher. So there are no special considerations out in the wider society. It's just when it comes to the academics that we try to help.
Okay, wow. The question I want to ask now is that there are times when persons will think that children with special needs, they have a mental challenge or illness. Is that true? Is that true, Mr. Bill?
Well, I can't speak for
There
children with.
are there are different types of disabilities.
Yes,
Okay.
and I can't speak for all children with disabilities. I mean, you got over here. You have 14 categories that you can qualify for. 14 different kind of categories. So yes, I think that first of all of us have certain how do you say it, hurdles that we would have to jump, regardless if you have special needs or not. And for special needs kids, some they might have different types of hurdles, and some categories they have higher hurdles compared to other categories. And I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say like there are definitely mental issues that go along with it, but everybody can learn. It's just you have to figure out how they can learn and what is their way of picking something up. Like some kids are visual learners, some kids are auditory learners, some kids need kinesthetic learning, which means basically they're like touching stuff and learning that way. Over here we have separate settings, and we have the kids that go into the regular general education classrooms that only get pulled out for some extra help. So you have all these different. I mean, it's such a big variety. It's incredible. So to talk about if one special needs child, if all of them, if they have certain hurdles, they're all different. And that's why we have the individual education plan, the IEP, because you take in consideration the individual child, how do they learn, what stops them from learning, what helps them, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, and we'll focus on the strengths. And that's and then the certain weaknesses, of course, we try to, like, that's where the special education comes in with specially designed instruction, where we try to help close the gap between them and the other students without the disability.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
That's that's a whole can of worms that you opened there. Just
Okay.
saying.
Yes.
Sam, if
Yes.
I could say,
Yes. You're. Yes.
if I
Go
could
ahead,
say
Mrs.
something,
Jackson.
Sam,
Yes. Go ahead.
um, our students, the first thing that we do as soon as parents come forward, or as soon as a teacher recognizes that there is something that's not quite right, is an assessment. So a clinical psychologist is the person who will do the assessment. Now, they do what is called a psychoeducational assessment, where they look at reasons why this child is not moving ahead, whether it is there are psychological reasons. So they look at the psychological aspect of it, and then they look at the educational aspect of it to see how far behind is this child meeting the milestones that it should be meeting at this age. And so they do the psychoeducational assessment. From that assessment now, the psychologist will give recommendations to teachers as to where to go, what to do with the students, and to parents as to how the parents can help, because it has to be a combined effort. Teacher alone cannot do it. So the parents would need to come on board to see what it is that the psychologist has recommended and to work along with the teacher so that the child can move forward. As
And
a teacher, we can say that the child, yes.
might I add that having experienced both worlds in the US and in Jamaica,
Mm-hmm.
and why the program in the I think it works in the US is that the IEP, it's a legal and it's an important document. While back home there's no
Mm-hmm.
follow up, right? So the importance is placed on that, and you can see the progress, and progress is maintained. While back home, we don't really push so much on the IEP. We know that they're moving, and we set goals for them, and they're moving, right? But in terms of to get the accommodations that they need and to set it that, hey, this child has a
Mm-hmm.
disability, he might need a 30 minutes extra in his on his exam, or he might need a one-to-one on his exams. Those accommodations
Mm-hmm.
are not legally in place. So in terms of doing the progress, it's
Mm-hmm.
that's one of our issues there. Having the assessment and all of that is fine, but after the assessment, then what happens?
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And
As a mom that has,
she's perfectly right. She's perfectly correct. Because when I look at the well, we don't call it IEP because of copyright issues. We call it IIP, individual instructional plans. But when I look at what we have compared to what is abroad is like so many pages. What we have, and it's legally binding, as she rightly said. But what we have here is a form that we fill in to say what exactly it is we want to work with the child in order for the child to move forward. Parents come in, we identify the child's strengths, we identify the child's weaknesses. Parents will have to sign this to say, I am in agreement and I will work with the child, but it is not legally binding in the full sense of the word.
Okay. Nardia is a parent, and I'm gonna let her give some of the questions because I think Tamara is asking at what age do you help those children? So Nardia, I'm gonna let you tell us how did you find out that your child has a special needs and how is it different from having a child without special needs, and what is the school system, how it works for you, how all of those things. Unmute.
Hello? As a parent, having a child with both living in Jamaica and now living in the United States, it is different. One, in Jamaica, when I found out that my daughter had Down syndrome, it was not diagnosed in the hospital. It was after 6 weeks of going to clinic that a nurse told me that my daughter was sick. And there was nothing in place at the time for my daughter because um I had to do researches on my own. I had to Her father and I we spoke about it, and yes, it hit me a while. It takes a while to really soak in that. How am I gonna handle this? How am I gonna deal with it? How am I gonna deal with all the stigma? You understand? So what I started to do, I started to read in order to gain knowledge as to how I can help my daughter. Um she went to a school when she was 2 years old when she started, and there was nothing in place for her. All I had to say is like talk to the teachers. But at the time when she started, she was not verbal. She was not verbal, right? So I have not gotten much support in terms of like there's a system then to help her. So from there, then she went on to NAS Children's Center that we learned about, and they cater for children with special needs, and they are mixed school. Like in America here, they have a cluster where they have children that has special needs and children that doesn't have special needs at NADS Children's Center in Jamaica. And they worked with her speech and other stuff. But as for the government program, there was none in place to help me. Or even when you go to the clinics, there was no education as to where can I get help for her. So I did the research on my own. As I told you before, I went to Granville. That's where we went to. And I went to NCT Vet, and I became an early childhood teacher. And that's how I taught her personally. That's where I basically learned a little bit more patience and tolerance in order how to move forward with her, as well as I had her father, which is the electrical computer engineer, and he's also a lecturer. So, from there, one of the things we were told by the doctor is that as parents, we need to support her. We need to communicate. You need to show her love. And from there, then I strive from there with teachers like teachers from NAS Children's Center that came on with me, helped me, supported me, and family members like my sister would have supported me, helped me, and talked to me, show her love. So there was no help from the system in Jamaica. Coming here to live, she got a lot of support. Her teachers here, they're very loving to her. When I say loving, they will reach out to her even after school. They will communicate with me. I'm a parent like this. I follow up everything. When it comes on to her reading, her speech, the IEP report comes home. Even though teacher tells me Rishane is doing good, I want to see Rishane does it for me. When you tell me she's doing it at school, I want to see her do it for me. A lot of times, people can say, "Oh, she's doing it," and when she's at home, she's not doing it. So what I started to do now, I started to print papers. Like for example, I started to use materials like these for her. I started to help her to trace, and I started all of that. I got materials on my own to help Rishini. Here you have the YMCA that it's an aftercare program that facilitates and also teach them well while I'm at work. So the system here is for me is much better for her, and she gets support in terms of the here they're more knowledgeable. In Jamaica, there's not much love in terms of to support children with Down syndrome or parents with Down syndrome. It's like another world. You're in another world. Like there's no help. You understand? But the teachers here, they're educated. onto how to help these children. I didn't get much of that other than a loving school where NAS Children's Center started out, and then in few years we left. She didn't stay there much, but I'm telling you, that's a great school. I can refer them to NAS Children's Center. They will get a lot of support from NAS Children's Center. Here in Florida, where I am, she gets a lot of support. Her teachers, her father still in Jamaica that supports her. Call, talk to her. With Shanae now, she's talking, she's walking, and she can have conversations. So I personally believe coming to America with her has helped her to even apply herself better, and with a lot of support from her father and self, and her teachers. I must say congratulations to those hardworking teachers. They have been supportive to her.
I see Mr. Bill shaking his head. That's a whole lot. That's a whole
Yeah.
lot. And Miss Lewis, I'm gonna have you sharing with us how parents can accept their children or child who has special needs.
Okay, so accepting it goes in stages. So at first you get a diagnosis and some of the doctors or they will just throw it on you. But some will be very gentle in what they say. And then for you to accept that as a parent, it's not easy because you're gonna be worried like, what is happening? And then after you get the diagnosis, you're gonna start searching for what can I do to help this child and all of that. And then you go through all the emotions and all of that. But what is important is that you understand that you're not alone. You're not alone. Find agencies, find groups, and be a part of that group and accept it for what it is. It won't change. Know that you are a superhero and you are blessed with this child, one of a kind, no one else like that child. So accepting is not, it's not easy. It's not easy for any parent at all, but we have to go through the stages of accepting our child as they are and work with them. One of the main things that I always say is that as a parent and as a teacher, we have to level up, and that is important. They're at their level, right? We think that we're there. No, we have to level up to their level, meet them where they are, and work with them, love them, play with them. That is important. That is so important. Play is therapy. In my class back home in Jamaica, it's a whole playground. Like everyone wants to be in my class because sometimes it's not about the books. We're gonna play. We're gonna have fun. I have toys. I have all kind of things in my class because playing is important. And I help the parents to accept their child and show them that hey, we can do this together. You're not alone. You are not alone, and that is important. And remember, you're a superhero. I'll always say that. You are a superhero. So these are some of my few tips. They're not really they're not really what would I they're not really in the books, but they can work. Some tips to just help you to accept what it is. And that's it. Love them, care for them, be there, share. And parents, take time for yourself. That is important because you'll put all your energy into your child and you want to get it right. You're not always going to get it right. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to miss that doctor's appointment. You're going to miss something. You're not going to get it right all the time. Take some time for yourself. That's important.
Oh yes, all right. So in all that we have been saying, it comes out a little bit that how this both system work both in Jamaica and in the US, but we still want to highlight a little bit more how how does we how is it that the education system ac- accommodate the children with special needs. We want to know that, and we want to know how they are fit in the educational system because they go to school. Um, there's a word that Miss Graham used, inclusive, And what if they're looking different from others? How do we allow them to not feel as though, because we know that sometimes people look at them, they steer, they say things, all of those things. How do we help the children and also the parents to deal with situations like those? Over to you, Mr. Bill.
Okay, so inclusive. First of all, thank you everybody for sharing. This stuff is beautiful. To the mother of a child with the special needs, I can never put myself in that position. You are a true hero. You're the like main team member for the IEP team, and you advocate for your child, and it's incredible. It sounds like you're doing everything you can for your kid. And Miss Lewis, you're so right about play therapy. Kids learn as playing, especially with our kids who sometimes have like that maturity is a little bit lower than others, and that play therapy is so important. So coming back to the inclusiveness in our system, there are different schools of thoughts. So some kids, they need that separate setting, and some kids need the inclusiveness. So you have something that in the IEP talks about least restrictive environment, right? That's called the LRE in special education. And you want to put the kid in the least restrictive environment, which means technically you want that kid to be out in the classrooms with the other children without disabilities as much as possible. But you also got to ask yourself then, when can it restrict the child? If, for example, a child has a disability where anxieties come in a lot, that general education classroom that might be too hard, or the kid's social skills might be too much, might not be as well for the child. But in general, you want to try to have the kids inclusive as much as possible, meaning they should be out in the regular classes, in the general education, even if they have a separate setting where they get their math and their writing and their reading all in the separate setting. They still at least go out for music, art, and whatnot with the general education kids so they can have some interaction. One thing that I was part of in Huntersville Elementary School in Charlotte, Mecklenburg, we did a lot of Special Olympics, and the Special Olympics had different programs that would be inclusive. So they would have buddy systems, they would have mentor programs. You would have the kids from different classes come and read to our kids, for example. So we would try to interact as much as we can with the other children, because at the end of the day, we're all going to have to like fit into society one way or another. And you might as well start that early in the elementary schools and in kindergarten. And even if some of our students might not be able to be as functional as other kids, but the acceptance needs to be there from all around, not just from a parent coming to terms with the child having a disability, but from us who don't necessarily have children with disabilities. But everybody in the world needs to come to terms to be accepting and saying, this child or this person thinks differently, functions differently, but it's still a human being that has values and that needs to be part of the society regardless. So the inclusiveness really comes just integrate as much as you can. Know your child, like it comes back down to individual education. If the child is not going to do well academically and it gets frustrating and causes behaviors, then do the core classes separately, but have the fun classes where it's not necessarily going to be as straining, have that integrated with the other kids. I mean, there's so many different options to go. And again, individual education plan. Have to know the child, figure out what works best for this child, and that's what's going to happen then.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Bill. Mrs. Graham, we're going to have you speak on that too. How do we, the education system, in accommodating children with special needs, and also how we have them fitting in the system? And I think there's a parent that is asking, what grade do the government school repeat a child that is slow academically? I am not sure where they are in Jamaica, but over to you, Mrs. Graham. Unmute.
All right. So the previous speaker spoke about acceptance That is something that we have been fighting for quite a while. We have come a far way in Jamaica, but we still have a far way to go. Um, there's a stigma attached to anyone with a disability, and more so in the schools because children can be cruel to each other. Parents too don't want their child in a class with a child that has a disability, um, especially if it's physical. And so, as teachers, we have to find ways and means of accommodating the child in the classroom. So it depends too on the kind of disability. So in some cases, we have to give the child preferential seating. So we seat the child very close to teacher. We assign duties, and we can use those duties too as a form of behavior management. So if the child is not doing what he or she is supposed to be doing, you withdraw those duties. And children like to be helpful in class. They like to hand out books, they like to clean the board, they like to do, all that sort of thing. So we use that to help them to learn. Um, for students, especially for those who are very active, students who move about a lot, um, we have to engage those students physically because having them sit down is not going to work. These students already have a problem popping up out of their seats. They are very busy. And so we have to find physical activities, ways in which games, movement, ways in which we can help them to learn. We also provide a multisensory approach because not all students learn the same way. Some students are tactile students. Some students learn by just listening, they're auditory. Some students, you have to put everything together. So you have to give them things to touch, let them listen, let them look, that sort of thing. So we do a lot of things like those. We also provide concrete progress. So the child is able to see, we give feedback, instant feedback. So the child is moving forward. So you praise the child. A lot of tokens, whether it's stickers, stars, that sort of thing. That's how we some of the ways that we help them. Um, if it's a student who is easily distracted, we try to seat that child away from the doors and the windows so that we can channel the attention. There are some students who they will work, but once you give them a big volume of work, you know you won't get that done. So we reduce the complexity and the amount of work that we give them. Not that we shortchange them, but we break it into bits, we break it into little pieces so that the child is able to accomplish. Once the child feels that he or she is achieving, then that child is going to continue or is going to want to achieve. But when you give them a lot of work and they are not achieving, they become frustrated and you defeat the whole purpose. In some cases, we appoint a buddy. So you have a child seated beside a child who is going at a faster pace and a child who will look out for and who will draw back this child to attention. So we have a partner system, a buddy system. Um, Sometimes you have to give frequent breaks because for a child who is um, unable to focus for long, having a child sit down for long to look at you, that won't work. So you break for a while. Um, you stop an activity, you engage in something, even if it's just stretching, just moving about, running about, that sort of thing, so that you can get the child back to attention. Um, in some classes, teachers have a little corner, and in that little corner, there are activities, there are games, and so as soon as the child has finished one piece of activity, they go to that little corner. They are able to work, say, for 5 minutes, and they come back. So All in all, we provide opportunities as much as we can for students to move forward. In terms of repeating a grade, we try not to. Once a child is identified as having a challenge, we try to work. In some cases, we have to take them out of that class. Some students do not work well in a large group. And so when we move them into the facility, it is a smaller group. Teacher is able to see everybody or as much as is possible. And so the children will learn better. However, some of the problems we have, or one main problem we have, is that there are some parents who are still in denial. They don't want their child to be in a facility because of the stigma that's attached. So they would prefer, I've had parents who have said to me, let my child stay in general ed. If he learns, he learns. If he doesn't learn, he doesn't learn. Wrong attitude, but then again, it is the stigma. It is how we view persons with disabilities.
And to add, Miss Graham, I think that is what is missing in Jamaica. It's just the education and the advocacy for children with special needs. That's a whole education needs to be done there, and then we will get it right.
Yes,
Not done, we're gonna always have that problem.
I agree with you.
Right.
I agree. But like I said, we are not where we want to be, but we are far away from where we were before. I have been
That is
in
true.
special ed since 1977, and I can tell you it was a fight. It was a fight. It was an uphill task. Persons were just not accepting of students, children with special needs. They would call them names, they would stone them when they see them on the street, they would tease. And because of that, there are some children who just did not want to come to school. School was a place where um, they were not happy. So we worked and we tried to see how best we could get persons to be accepting of these students. Still a far way to go, very far, still a far way to go, but we are a far way from where we started.
Wow. And as
I,
you mentioned that for example a parent would not want to accept that the child has a need, and how do you help a parent like that?
Um, it's hard. It's hard. It's easier if the parent accepts it and comes forward and say, I need help. But when you have a parent who is telling you there is nothing wrong with my child, and when you say, all right, let's go to the psychologist, let the psychologist decide, because I can't tell you that your child has a disability. I'm not a psychologist. It's the psychologist who will do the tests and who will say this is what it is. But even then, even when it is free, because there is the diagnostic center at the Sam Sharp Teachers College now that offers assessment services free of cost, and there are parents who are still not going to take up that offer. We try to talk to them, we try to work with them. There are parents who will tell us, I don't want my child in a facility. I don't want to have my child there because of one reason or another. And it's really hard. And it's heart rending too, because it's the child who is going to suffer in the end. So that's where we are. Hard road. That's where we are.
Oh my God.
Just to
Nardia,
add to that, just to add to that, as
yes.
Miss Lewis had said earlier, that the stigma that is attached, because without knowledge, there's nowhere they're gonna accept. Acceptance is hard at times when you're sure that you're not gonna have the support that you're looking for. But as for me, I'm using myself as an example. This is mine. Once you see her, you see me. Beautiful gifts for me are given by God. That's my forte. So you don't have to tell me what she has. The world knows because I'm putting it in your face. So basically, you're gonna accept it because this is me. This is how I move forward. I have to accept it. This is mine. I don't care how the world sees her. And once I'm comfortable with it, then I'm gonna feel proud about my gift. So it's acceptance.
Is it
It's
always
really
like that
killing.
for you?
Yes, acceptance is a big thing because that is what is killing my nation in Jamaica because they're not willing to accept the stigma. People's gonna call your name, people gonna toot your arm, people gonna say stuff. But once you love your child that you gave birth to, I'm always saying, how can my tender love cease towards the child that I bear? So you can't throw anything at me. That's me. When you see her, you see me. So when you attack her, you attack me. And she's not feeling that. So whenever you try feeling it, so with that positive energy and that positive vibe of accepting as a mother with a child with disability, I can do at almost anything that is possible because acceptance and belief and loving myself, because I love my child, so I see my child as myself. So that is one of my motivation. And I say to people, I'm sorry if you have a problem with I don't have a problem. You have a burden. I don't. I'm sorry, but beautiful gifts can't be purchased in the store, can't be bought on the shelves, can't be bought online. Acceptance is the most important thing. And listen, I guard what I carry. I guard what I carry. I don't care how you see my daughter. I love her. In my eyes, she's a beautiful gift. So Jamaicans need to be educated as to how to support just their children, not because it's your relative, not because it's their cousin. Once you learn to love another child that is not yours, you have to learn to love another child that is not yours. Just like you're adopting a child out there, remember, these are beautiful gifts that are given by God. They can't be purchased. And once you accept that as a parent, I can tell any parent, guard what you carry. Motivational speech. Guard what you carry. Whatever you say won't hurt me. It doesn't affect me. I put it out there in the world. So guess what? When you see Rishine, you see me. I'm not ashamed. I am so proud. And I'm loving my life. And I'm loving her. So all you have to do is work on her, work with her, celebrate her. And with all of those, and find time for yourself because I do find times on Friday evenings on the balcony. Yeah, I have my nice crowd while she's there having fun with her sister. So, you can have fun.
That's true, Miss Graham. And another thing is that
Don't worry about the stigma. Guard what you carry.
that's true. Some parents they have more children and they are going to compare this one to the other one and say in Jamaican terms they would say, look at your sister this or look at your brother this or that's what they would say comparing and that's another problem.
True,
And also Miss
true.
Graham, you gave some important tips and just encourage your parents, don't lose yourself.
Yeah.
You will feel it sometimes like you want to lose it, but don't lose yourself and take the time to enjoy your kid, enjoy them, and also
Mm.
celebrate the small things. Today they're holding the crayons properly, celebrate it. They're telling you that this is the color red, celebrate it. And that is important. That and number one thing is to trust your instinct. Trust it. Trust it.
Mm.
I was gonna say, like, you talked about acceptance so much, and it's such a like you, Miss Thomas, you're a blessing to your daughter. Obviously, like, I mean, the way you go about parenting, and it's so different. There's cultural differences.
Yeah.
There's differences in ages of
Yes.
the mother or the dad. I mean, there's so many different things to consider, and the fact that you're just so much about backing up your child and accept, like, you want to do what you can for your child. That's just loving your kid. That's what it's supposed to be like. You're doing what it's supposed to be like, and I love to hear that. It's great because guess what? It's not just Jamaica or U.S. differences. Like Germany, we got differences too. When I was going to school in Germany, I didn't remember any special needs person there. We had separate schools. They would go to separate schools. They might have good programs, but they would go to separate schools. So you're going to have those problems all across the world, and it's always going to come down to how does the parent really accept it. A lot of times, Miss Thomas, I can tell you from just listening to you, you are glowing. I mean, you are like beautiful the way you speak about your child, and a lot of parents
What
are
I
really
don't
good and
do,
supportive of it. Go ahead.
I'm adding to that. Don't let typical parents get you down. And that's one of the main things what I see, because I've had a situation where I've had a nanny in my house. This is somebody that is supposed to love my kids, that are being paid separately for my kids. And she's gonna
Yeah.
turn to me and say to me, "You're gonna let your daughter let you sin." And I'm trying to still convey what she,
We didn't hear
you
that.
understand, because
There was a break, so I don't know if you could repeat what you said. Didn't hear.
okay, I'm saying I've had a nanny working with my two daughters, and one day she said she and I was having a conversation, and she said I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and I told her, and I told her that Nardia will allow, because of Rishane she will sin, and I didn't even respond to what she said, because these are two different children. There's no comparison between the two. I love my two kids, right? One is small, one is 4, and one is 13. There's no comparison between the two. And they're a big age difference. You understand? And I'm saying one likes, for the older one with special needs, she's very clean. She has, to me, she has OCD. Now, you can't be as tidy as she is, while the other one is different. So she's saying, oh, she won't allow her. I said, you have to protect her because you don't want the her to do her diligence as a caregiver and separate the two, because one no Rishane will not know her strength. Because if she's constantly talking to her small sister, don't mess the place up. She's gonna get angry because she does not know her strength. So there's no comparison between the two. It's not that she know, like she's gonna say, "Oh, Dinara," and she's gonna close the door. That doesn't mean she doesn't love her sister. It's just that she likes things in a certain way. So you gotta protect, dividing. Rishine, this is your sister. Give her a hug. This is how I do it. Give Dinara a hug. Share. Both of you are mine. So I have to constantly prompting her, telling her to be nice, be nice. Speak with your inner voice. And this is how I go for it on a daily basis with both of them, and they're going down the stairs, hold each other's hand. Dinara, you need to protect Rishine. Rishine, you need to protect Dinara. It's not easy. It's never easy for me, because when you have, as parent, has to basically accept how far it gets, not giving up on my child because of her, because of how she is. You're not gonna accept her, but you're gonna come into her space and telling me you don't like her. No, that part of it now is saying that It's not that I hate the young person or hate the child or hate the individual as to how to deal with the child or separate the two. The environment becomes not conducive for my daughter with a special need. I'm going to have to separate the two. Some changes has to be made. But I'm not going to put anyone before her. Someone has to go, but not her. That's my
Wow, I
love of
tell
my
you that that
life.
that that and that's one of the
Something got to
things
go.
I like about Nardia. She's very
When it comes
passionate.
on to my daughter, I don't. I'm sorry. Because you have to love yourself before you can love
Um,
anyone else. And I've accepted loving myself, and myself is my child.
mhm,
Yes,
yeah.
So if
absolutely
you don't
agree. I
love
was going
me
to get at
because
that
she has,
earlier.
yeah, if you don't love
That
me, love her because she has a special need, there's no way you can love her because she has a special need.
I've seen parents having
Mm.
issues with
Mama,
accepting because they felt guilty for some reason.
we're
Like
a
they had
package,
a
baby. I
part.
gotta love it.
It's not a parent's fault ever. I totally agree. You
Mhm,
gotta love
It's
yourself
not. It's
first in
not my
order to take
fault.
care of others.
Yes,
mhm,
sharing is caring,
mhm,
and if anything, just like the Bible said, trust. You trust God, not man. Once anything in life you love, you're gonna take care of it. So if you love your child enough, share, you're gonna take care. You understand? It's hard for me to even my job. I had to walk away from my job because to please my daughter. I've walked away from my job and take a job that has no qualification, nothing, to make sure I can pick my daughter up from the bus to hand her over to the caregiver. And I took a lot of step back in order to make sure she's comfortable, she's happy. I'm not going to tell people that it's easy. It's not easy. But accepting and loving and guarding, because I know I know her. I know her. I don't know you. And people
You
will hate me and they will ridicule me. I've been through it for her. I'm okay doing it for her. Yeah. I've had people coming in my house. I've had people in my house telling me they don't like her. They don't need to acknowledge her. You can't stay and not acknowledge her. This is her space because we're all human and we're all supposed to live a fair life. And I'm accepting that she has a special need and I'm loving it because I cannot create human. I can't. And I can tell any parent, you cannot make children. You cannot create human beings. Don't let other typical parents tear you down because your child has a special need. Let them accept you for who you are. Don't change to accept no one. Let people accept you and your child. Be proud of what you carry. And that's how I see it. Acceptance is very important in life. That's a strong word, acceptance. It's not easy. But when I can tell you, I can go out there and I can do things that people will look down on me. But once her needs are cared for, that's all matters to me. Nothing else matters. Once her needs are met, I'm the happiest mom ever. When her father calls her, she's happy. He's all the way in Jamaica, but he still supports. We may never be together, but he still supports. I can listen to her speaking to her dad from the other room, and that makes me happy because we have accepted it. And once we love and support her, we don't care who wants to accept her.
Oh yes, and parents and audience, I guess we would have gotten it uh, straight from a mother's heart. She can tell you much as any one of us here tonight can tell you because she's speaking from her heart, from her experience, and from what she knows about, and we can feel that passion. So if you have a child with special needs, own that child. She shared with you over and over. Accept that beautiful gift that God has given you. Nobody else. God has given you your beautiful gift. So own it. And I guess as we are getting ready to close, we all of those things, acceptance, and doesn't matter what other people want to say, doesn't matter what anybody else think, own what you have, and get the help that you need. As Mrs. Graham mentioned, that they're not where Jamaica is not where they are, but they are much better. I think someone is asking a question after accessing the free assessment and receiving a diagnosis. What provision is there for our children moving forward in society? Mrs. Graham, I think that one is for you.
Um, once again, we fall short, if I may say so. All right. There are facilities that are available for students with special needs. Again, it depends on the type of disability. The facility where I worked, that one catered to students with specific learning challenges, not students with intellectual disabilities. But there are facilities for students with intellectual disabilities. Our problem, though, our challenge is space. We do not have enough space to accommodate the number of students that are referred to us every year. That is a big issue, and it's right across Jamaica. Um, let me be specific about St. James because that's where I am. All right. So there is one special ed facility in St. James that caters to students with learning challenges, and that um, facility caters to students in St. James, Hanover. Well, there's one in Trelawney. So that unit only accommodates 64 students. There are only 4 classrooms, and the pupil teacher ratio is 1 to 16. Now you can understand how crowded that unit is. And this is true and there are 6 of those units across the island. These are the government units. There are facilities, but they are private facilities, and most of them are costly. So the government facilities where you don't have to pay, they are overcrowded. I was head of the unit for years, for so many years. And it pained my heart each year when I had to turn back parents. It was heartbreaking because when you see a parent come forward and say to you, my child has a problem, I need help, and you are not able to help, it is heartrending. So that's our challenge. That's our challenge.
That is
We
so
do
true,
not have
Miss.
enough facilities,
That is so true. And then after primary school, they used to have
not
that's
enough
elementary.
facilities.
They used to have an exam that they do at grade 6 that places them in high school and it puts them on their pathway. Then when they go to high school, they work with their pathway coaches. Now, after high
Mhm.
school, that is the problem. Now they place them in some of these schools that don't really have much technical subjects for these students. Because let's just say
Mhm.
they won't get the books right, but they're good with their hands, they can make, they can
Yes,
build.
yes.
If we could just place these students in some of these technical institutions, I think that
Mhm.
we would have amazing kids coming out. So I think that's one of the problems with
Mhm.
after high school.
Mhm.
That's it. And again, the parents, we have to have the parents
It's
as
a
a
big
support
problem. It's a
to
big
push
issue.
these, right, to push these children because they need it.
What does it look like here in the US, Mr.
Mm.
Bill? What's the
Well, you got like those technical schools you were talking about, Miss Luz. We have stuff like that over here, and they're different probably in state to state. Like in New York, I remember we had a BOCES school, and that was for career and technical stuff. If you didn't want to go to college, you would do that. And I gotta say the same thing in Germany. We don't even have. It's not elementary school and then middle school, high school. It's elementary school, and then you have three different choices after elementary school, after fourth grade. You go on the lower track that goes up to ninth grade. Then you go out for apprenticeship. You go up from 5 to 10, then you go for a community college. And if you go from 5 to 13, you got like equivalent to the baccalaureate, like they have in France, the Abitur in Germany. And then you go to university. So you have all these different systems everywhere. But like Miss Lewis said, there has to be something after high school to train some of our kids. And I mean, we're talking about huge spectrum. You got low functioning kids and high functioning kids, and a lot of kids that fall in between the cracks. So there is something out there for everybody if we make it happen. And to just curve it all around again, I think acceptance is the key here with everything. As long as we accept as a society that you have people of different abilities, and I'm not saying disabilities, I'm purposely saying people of different abilities. You have high, low level, different functioning jobs that we can train people for. There is something out there for everybody, basically. But it has to be created, and there has to be an acceptance on a wider range, not just starting with the parent, which is key, of course, but on a wider range to acceptance. And then we can find something for people. We're smart and creative people. We can find stuff.
Okay, thank you for that. As we are getting ready to close, Miss Lewis, I'm gonna have you share with us how is it uh, teaching children who are deaf and hard of hearing? How is it different?
Well, the fun part of teaching children with deaf hard of hearing, I always say, is that you don't have to teach them the ABC. You don't have to teach them the letter sounds, and that's cool. But teaching kids that are deaf and hard of hearing, it is fun. It's the same concept. It's just that you're not
How
using the
soon?
English.
How soon should parents have their if they identify that the child is not hearing? How soon is it recommended that they have the child start learning sign language?
Well, it is important that as soon as you find that out and the child is at age, regular age in Jamaica, that they go to kindergarten school, you place them in these institutions. I know that you have Cabron Christian Center for the Deaf, you have some of the schools in Kingston, but most of the schools are in Kingston, but there's one in Brownstown, there is one in Mandeville, Montego Bay. So you have the deaf institution, and they have a
England.
right, and they have a preschool area. So it operates just like a regular school. So you have the preschool, and then they will go there just like learning the colors and learning the sign language, which is important because that's going to be their language. And then they move up grade one, grade two, and then they'll go up the rank. So it's basically the same thing. It's just that you use sign language to teach. That's all.
Okay, we have had a wonderful evening, a very passionate one, and I trust and hope that parents are encouraged, especially this evening by Nardia, to go forward. And as we close, we're going to have each person leaving their final tip with parents who have children with special needs. I see I wanna big up Phoenix Life with Marshall. Let me put her back right up here. We communicated on Instagram. I'm not sure. I guess she could tell us what diagnosis is with her daughter. She has a beautiful daughter, and I just love watching her with her. And I tell her that I really admire her strength. It's the same thing with Nardia. I see her daughter, she's a fashionista. I tell you, a few months ago it was her birthday, and I tell you, it's just fabulous. I just love to see them working and just being passionate and loving the beautiful gift that God has given them. We started teaching sign language to our children around 6 months. Oh,
Yes, and that is important too because they're gonna have needs and they're gonna want. So you start teaching them little things like water, food, and if they want to use the toilet and those little stuff, teach them the colors and more.
yeah,
and
go ahead and show us what it looks like. We want to see.
teach them
I'm
the
very
letters of the
interested in
alphabet. So if you find out that your child is deaf, then you would have
show
to
us
do your
while
own
you talk. Go
research.
ahead.
Do your own. You have to start doing your own research, just like having your baby and he's normal, and you're gonna
We
teach
want to
him the
see some
colors.
sign language with. We want to see some movements while you're talking. A
Oh,
little
I've
bit.
I've been
Oh
out
my
of
God.
I've been out of it for a while now. So when you don't use it, you lose it. But
Oh my
I still have
God.
a little bit left. But it's important to start them out early. Start
You
teaching
should have
them the
asked. I
colors,
would have,
ABC, and all of
if
that.
you had asked earlier, I would have allowed Rishani to teach you something. Rishani does sign languages. She
Oh,
can
she
talk
does.
to you.
Oh
Yes,
wow.
she does. We learned that on signing time on Netflix from she was very small. I started to, so now she, when she was in Maplewood Elementary in Florida here, she learned it at school, so now she can talk to you in sign language as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay.
That's
Yes.
So
good.
she hears you, Nardia.
Pardon?
She hears
Yeah, she talks, she hears, she
and
does
she talks.
everything normal. Yes.
Okay, okay.
She
Awesome.
sings like a normal teenager, she's attitude like a normal teenager. You
I know
just
about
have
the
to just
attitude,
keep
but for sure, for sure.
yes.
And
Because
Miss
she gives
Thompson,
me attitude.
did you say she has Down syndrome? Miss Thompson?
My daughter has
Oh, she's gone.
Yeah, she has
you
her
heard me?
daughter has
Oh,
yes.
Hello?
I love working with them. I'm telling you, they have an attitude that is just it's just bubbly. You just have to love them.
Let me zoom
Oh,
in on her.
beautiful.
Aw.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
told you she's one person
Yeah,
of
she's got some
empathy.
personality. I can see.
Yes.
Yes,
I
yes,
like
she
it.
is. Yes,
Yes.
yes, she is. She loves to sing, she loves to dance. She's very tidy. She's OCD just like her dad. Everything has to be in order.
Yes. Oh wow, beautiful, I tell
That is
you.
little girl.
So as we close, I'm gonna have all of you just leave one powerful tip with our audience or parents who have children with special needs. Go ahead, Nordia.
Repeat for me. You were breaking up. I didn't hear you.
One tip with parents as we go. Your final one last tip. Short, sweet, and spicy.
Take time for yourself. Love yourself. She's hearing me?
Yes, thank you. Oh,
Oh,
over to you, Chanel.
my tip is level up. Level up.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Bill.
That's too many. Love, patience, find that balance between finding accommodations and treating your child just like any other child. So,
Okay. Miss Donna.
All right. My tip is praise your child for any achievement, no matter how small. What you might think is small is a wow to this child. And it is really important that you praise the child.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you very much, audience, for tuning in. I was encouraged, I was blessed, I was motivated, and I am an advocate and I will continue to be one. Thank you, my panelists. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time out to be with me on Wisdom Wednesday Live. And if you have not yet subscribed, please do so. Audience, if you have not yet subscribed, please do so. We meet here every Wednesday at this time. If you're in Jamaica, it's 7 p.m. your time. And if you're in America or Canada, it's 8 p.m. And before we go each evening, we all do our relaxation technique. Because as you see down the bottom of your screen, you see that we strive and thrive to be and to become a better version of ourselves. So if you're a parent, if you're a mother, if you're a friend, if you're a father, whatever category you fall in, we thrive. And if you are striving, you strive. And if you're already striving, you want to thrive and all of that to be and to become a better version of ourselves. And guess what? Mindset is everything. Once you work on that growth mindset, everything will flow. You have to open your mind, you have to be positive and ready to flow and to learn. So I want you to get yourself in a relaxed position and we are going to inhale. When we inhale, you're going to hold that breath in your chest until you feel it. And then you're going to let it go softly through your mouth. And we're going to do that a few times. You can close your eyes. Get comfortable. Are you ready? One, two, three. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. One last time. Inhale. Exhale. Beautiful. Thank you again. And have yourself a wonderful Wisdom Wednesday. Bye bye.
Bye.